Welcome back to Feral. You know what? We cannot do an event in this day and this age, drama much, without talking about AI, its effect on pretty much everything we've ever known, and oh my goodness, its effect on copy that people pay for, copy that people don't pay for, what people think good copy actually is, and more. And so today I have brought to you to talk about AI, among other things, my very, very favorite conversion copywriter and launch strategy brilliant super genius, Danielle Weil. Get in here. What the heck is going on in the state of copywriting today?
What is going on? Well, that's a big question to start with. All the things. What's happening is we have a lot of people, a lot of business owners who see what AI can do, and it can do a lot more than it could do a year ago and a lot more than a year before that. So we're making progress, but who have said, I can make it write copy, it's writing my content, it's good enough, sounds good, let's go, and then it doesn't convert. Well, and we're unclear why.
Well, and I think you already nailed it, which is that sounds good and is good is not always the same thing. And let's just disclose, Danny loves to partner with the robots on some stuff, as do I. We are not anti-robot. If you're showing up to this conversation and you're using the robot for the copy, we are not going to make you feel bad. Our goal is how to help you understand how to utilize a tool and also what that tool probably shouldn't still be doing for you. But as someone who edits a lot of people's AI written copy and also co-creates with AI quite a lot, what I'm noticing, Danny, in addition to extreme M dashes and little mini sentence fragments, both of which I love, by the way, so screw you, AI, for taking all my tricks. But what I'm noticing is that metaphors get mixed. Context doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. AI has gotten really good at making a pretty sounding word salad sentence that doesn't actually say much. Are you seeing that too? I literally have to spend all the time being like, okay, cool, that sounds good, but it doesn't actually make any sense.
Right. It's like cotton candy. You're like, ooh, pretty, shiny, and then you bite into it and there's no substance there.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that that's happening is two reasons that it's happening. One is it is the conglomeration of our, collective word salad as a right over the course of how long. And let's say, not everybody's a writer. There's a lot of mediocre stuff out there.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that's happening is it's like an intern that really, really wants to prove itself, and will just make stuff up, without knowing the context. It'll make leaps in terms of what it thinks it knows, but without the specificity of your experience, your voice, your product. And if you don't give it enough of that specificity, and even if you do, it will make leaps, and those leaps will be generic.
Yes, and let's be very, very clear, just in case there are people out there that don't know this. AI does not know what day it is, and a lot of AI models, even some of the more advanced ones, do not have complete internet access, so they cannot do, unless you request research, it cannot go looking for these things. And for a lot of them, time stopped when OpenAI launched ChatGPT, because that was where the database ended, right? So if you ask it current events, a lot of the time it's going to tell you stuff from 2023 as a current event. Or if you say, hey, what's the weather like tomorrow? You may as well be asking it what lottery winners are going to win in Botswana tomorrow. We don't freaking know. It just doesn't know. And so it invents, it hallucinates. That's an actual term, people. It's called a hallucination, where instead of saying, hey, listen, I don't have enough information to say that, it doesn't want to do that. It just makes it up. And we just saw here in Chicago, in the Chicago Sun-Times, they put out a book list of summer reading that someone had done with AI, and every single book on the list was fake. Save one.
Right?
Save one. And no one knows how the one real book got there. No one knows how that one, which is also kind of creepy, but it's a perfectly beautiful sounding book list. And we're seeing people use these things to put out entire webinars, entire master classes, lead magnets, books. People are writing their whole books in AI without fact checking their own stuff. And it's like, darlings. Editing needs to be a part of this process, as does better prompting, right, Danny?
And here's where the dilemma comes in, because we want to use AI because it saves us time. It saves us time. It saves us mental effort of having to come up with an idea and think and ruminate on a hook and edit and, put sentences together. Most of us, unless we are writers and do that in our day-to-day life, and even when we do, it's okay to be a little bit lazy about it, especially when the dopamine hits and it's like instant email.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Great. It's just like a little ping on anything else that gives you that dopamine hit. And that's what it's programmed to do. Also, when it compliments you, great idea. That is those neurotransmitters in your brain going, whoo. And so it's normal to feel good when AI gives you something.
Guilty. I do love that.
Right?
Every single idea I've ever had is the greatest idea in the history of the internet.
Ever.
Like, Annie, you've done it again. I'm like, why, thank you, robot. I know.
Right? But word of caution, and I will quote Albus Dumbledore, do not trust something that can think for itself if you cannot see where it keeps its brain.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you are not in some ways smarter than the robot, or at least fact checking, or you don't know, to come back to copy, if you don't know what good copy looks like or know how to spot the things that are going to kill your conversions, and you're just trusting it because it sounds good and you told it to write like an A-list copywriter, you're going to be sadly disappointed.
Yes, absolutely. And then, because we already had a version of this problem previously that, like AI, is meant as a really well-intended tool that then people are like, cool, I can cut a corner, and then they cut the whole thing. Like, they don't cut a corner, they leave a corner and cut everything else, right? So, and you and I have had a zillion talks about templates and swipe files. And all before AI was already always whining and bitching at you about templates and swipe files and how much I think they rob people of originality, of actually teaching a man to fish and understanding what structurally needs to be communicated and how, blah, 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 blah. I'm a lot more anti these things than you are because you've also seen them done well. But now what I'm seeing, nightmare upon nightmare, is people are now putting out templates that AI wrote. So now we're putting out a robot written template.
It's like a game of telephone.
Right.
It's an awful game of broken telephone.
And at some point, a template or a swipe file is supposed to be a teaching experience. And now when we're just regurgitating this telephone nonsense, is anybody getting smarter? Is anything really getting done? Or are we just sending more toxic email out into the noise base? What do you think?
Probably the latter. But I will go back to what you said about swipe files, because I sentimentally speaking, I learned copywriting by swiping.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I learned. But I learned it the long way, where I had a sales letter that I was writing, I had a swipe that I was working from, and I was adapting it sentence by sentence, typing sentence by sentence. For the 10,000 hours that it takes to do that and the years that I did that, that is what teaches you what the underlying structure of the persuasion should be, not what it's saying, but how you're saying it.
Yes.
And so that is probably, I don't go in for the whole, you have to handwrite, you don't have to handwrite a sales letter. I never did. I was just always working on projects for clients with swipes, and they converted, and I learned, and you do enough of that, and that's how you internalize the structure.
Yes.
Right? Just like anything else. And so I'm not anti-swipes. I'm a little bit anti-templates for the reason that you and I have talked about, which is this idea of functional fixedness.
Tell me all about that. Pop off on functional fixedness, baby. Here we go. Everybody, put your seatbelts on. Go, babe.
And ironically enough, this is an idea that was given to me by the robot. So as we were having a chat about why this happens, because I had never been able to name it before. Yeah. And then I did my own research and, dug deeper into this concept. Functional fixedness is when you see an item like, okay, what is this?
That is
what
a pen.
Great. What's it used for?
Writing stuff.
Writing stuff. Toddler comes in and sees this thing. What is this?
That is a stick.
It's a stick. It's a drumstick.
It goes up my
It's
nose.
great for banging on things. It goes up your nose. It goes in your ear. It goes, right?
You poke your
can
sister
throw
with
it and have the dog fetch it.
Exactly.
This can be a whole lot of different things. And the process of that happening, of the paths that close off in our brain, and we get locked into this one paradigm of what something should be, is called functional fixedness. And that's what happens when you use templates, because what happens in a template, you get a sentence and then you have to fill in the blank.
Yep.
And I don't know about you, but when I use templates, I'm like, I don't know what to put in this blank. I'm not sure. I don't know. It should feel easy, but it's not.
Unless I go the Mad Lib route and I just go with the dumbest answer I can come up with.
Unless
I'm
you're
trying
just
to
picking something.
You know what I mean? Like, that's what happens to me when I try to fill out a template. I try to go to like the most incredible, zany, fabulous, incredible, award-winning answer. And I'm like, I'm trying to show creativity where literally it says adjective here.
Right. But because you didn't start that sentence, because you didn't kind of think it for yourself, because you didn't have the pathway, you're not going to end up with your best, most creative, most resonant copy. Also because you may not have the deeper understanding of what that sentence is meant to do, you're just filling in the blank. And so it feels easy. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, this is easy. I filled in the blank. Why is it not working? Well, because the energy is not there, because it's not yours, because you haven't understood what it takes to make it yours.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And yes, it can do market research for you. Yes, it has an understanding of human psychology, but you are the one who are interfacing with your clients. You are the one in the trenches with them, having the conversations with them. You are the one hearing their language. You are the one they're confiding in. And then you're saying, okay, well, copy's going to turn around and say, are you tired? No.
I also think we underestimate the value of doing things the long way, and the human intelligence that comes from reading through 100 survey answers from your audience and processing it and copying and pasting, their own language into a doc to use later, which I have done at least 100 times.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. I mean, I used to talk so much about giving yourself and your business the gift of boredom, because that is a gold mine. Right? That is an absolute gold mine. At risk of dying is this voice of customer, voice of consumer stuff, because we just assume that the robot knows. No, y'all. They tell you. They trust you. They're investing in you. The way that we talk to you and the way that we talk to someone else is totally different. For example, when I call Walgreens and it wants me to say my prescription stuff, if it can't hear me, I go, pharmacy!
A real person.
00000. If I did that to a human being at the pharmacy, I would get kicked out of the store and possibly arrested or institutionalized. Like, we don't talk to robotic things, even though we thank them, which apparently is using all the world's water. That's a whole other thing. Y'all stop thanking the robot. They don't care. But at the same point, it's like we don't treat stuff the same, and so we can't expect the robot to understand things at the same level that we do. What it's amazing for is like, hey, I have 30 speakers for Feral. This is their availability. Please make this work, because what I don't want to do is schedule Tetris. But what I'm not going to ask the robot to do is come up with questions for this interview.
Right. Exactly. Let it do the things that it's good at doing. I let it sometimes brainstorm ideas for you. So here's actually a tactical way to use AI that doesn't involve letting it write emails for you. All right? We're putting our tactical hat on.
Oh, I wish I had a hat.
You know, I mean, I got my trusty headband always, but okay. So you're writing an email, and when I teach about email writing, we talk about using 3 specific constraints: time, topic, and template. But I use template in the terms of framework. I just wanted to make it a T. So we have a timer set for 20 minutes, and we have the topic that we're picking, and we have the takeaway that we want in that email. What is the one thing that I want someone to remember about this email that is going to lead them to take the action that I want? So that takeaway, let's say the message is there's always a second chance. There's always a second chance until there isn't, right? So I want a story about second chances. And so what I do, and I don't want to tell a story about me this time because not all the stories in your emails have to be about you. That's another. So I go to the robot and say, hey, I'm writing an email to blah, blah, blah audience, and I would love 10 examples from nature, pop culture, movies, or history about second chances. Please give me 10 of each. And I'll look. This is a real thing that I've done. And I'll look and I'll see, ooh, okay, here's an interesting story about this specific animal who was endangered, and they were able to, by using this specific thing, actually allow it to repopulate in its natural habitat. Ooh, I like that. That feels cool.
That's
that feels
perfect.
like there's a story there. Great. Now I'll go to that one. I like that one. Tell me more. And then I'll go do my own research just to make sure it hasn't hallucinated this thing. And I'll do a quick Google.
A new species of lemur. You're like, that's not.
The whole process takes about 5 to 7 minutes. And then I write my little version of the story. And I have a beautiful, heartwarming, emotional story that takes me to that takeaway.
Yes. But see, already,
without saying, write an email about blah, blah, blah.
I'm not even seeing people saying, write an email about blah, blah, blah. I'm seeing people being like, write me an entire follow-up series for this thing. Not only is there not individual discernment, like how do we know what flows from one to the next? What I love when you're talking about, the takeaway is that's a better prompt for AI. I need them to walk away from this email about this. And also the intent. I want to tell a story and I want it to be about this very specific thing to drive this takeaway. That's already infinitely better prompting. And you use that magical word constraints, which is of all the glorious things I learned from you and continue to learn from you. I think it's one of my favorites because we're looking for something to make things easier. And when we are working with AI, we feel like we have limitless potential, right? We're Aladdin. We've got phenomenal cosmic powers of copywriting. But actually, we have way too much. And so one of the things that I've learned from you that I just absolutely adore to help make writing better and easier is this idea of constraints, which is so counterintuitive. Can you tell me more about what you mean by constraints and how you see them show up and save the day?
Yes, I can. So the idea of constraints comes from, think about a time where you have had a standardized test or a deadline on a project. I know,
I'm
no
like,
trauma,
oh God, trauma.
But okay, you have a deadline. You've got to turn this paper in and it's due in 2 days and, we really got to go now. And it happens, right? And sometimes, or you're in this painting workshop and you've got a blank canvas, or you've got a prompt that says, we are going to paint pink elephants now. Which one is going to get you into creativity mode faster?
For me, it's always the constraint. Even though I normally will bristle, not always, but for me, I thought about, I did this really amazing speaking gig called Be Sage. If you're in the wedding industry or the luxury events industry, you need to look up Be Sage, just so you know. But oh my gosh, stunningly gorgeous event, beautifully put on. I was so proud to be one of their main stage speakers. The first night they had a beige party, not a white party.
Okay.
A beige party. And I was like, I don't own beige. Okay. And also I am beige. So I don't wear
Those washes
beige.
out, just be all the same color.
There's just so much wrong here. And so I was like, I can't believe I have to go to a beige party. What the hell am I supposed to wear for a beige party? You know what I had so much fun doing? Trying to figure out how to show up as Annie and have a first impression outfit in beige.
Right.
So I had to go find beige patterns, beige sequins. Also, it was beautiful spring weather, but a little cold at night. How do I layer within beige? And I looked phenomenal, and it was a lot of fun. And also, I got to see everybody else's personality, up to and including the people that are like, I refuse to wear beige. Good for you! Right? And the people that are like, my whole costume is beige.
Here's why this works. Because our brains are given too many possibilities. We tend to go into we tend to get mode. We get overwhelmed by all of those possibilities. When we are given constraints, and they've done studies on this actually about the sweet spot for constraints. When creative people are given constraints around a project, your brain is then forced to make new connections that it would not normally make. And this is the key here. I did this exercise in-person workshop, completely changed people's lives. I mean, it changed mine. Night before the event, I'm doing an in-person workshop. I'm writing random words on little slips of paper and putting them in a Ziploc bag. Avocados, deep sea diving, Cher, the Beatles. I mean, literally just wrote 30 random words and put them in a bag. And I had everybody pick one. I gave them 20 minutes. And I'm like, you are writing an email to your list with a story about this thing. What came out of that workshop stunned even me in how good they were.
Because it forces that creativity and it gets you out of the shoulds and into actual creation, right? It really shakes things up in a beautiful and freeing way. So brilliant.
And from a audience perspective, people seeing it, it's sticky because they're making new connections for your audience that they're not used to seeing in their inbox.
I mean, now I just want to write an email about Cher because when I read, if y'all don't know this, Cher's putting out a memoir in 2 halves. The first half's already out. It's amazing. But you find out on page 1 that Cher is short for Cheryl. And if that's not mind-blowing, I don't know what is. So,
I think I knew that, though. I mean, my sister's name is Cheryl, so maybe that's
maybe you just have
Cher.
the inside
that's clearly
Cheryl.
That's the nickname.
You just have the inside Cheryl scoop. Good for you. See, but so we talked about constraints. We talked about kind of topics or timeline. I always think about the 24-hour play festivals that we always did in the theater community here in Chicago, where you're like, the playwright has 24 hours, you have 3 actors, and you also have to incorporate this McCafe
cup. It's like improv for copy. That's what it is. It's email copy improv.
And if you're doing improv correctly, you're listening, right? So it begs the question, how do I incorporate this for someone else's benefit? Because what you're not going to send is just an email out being like, Cher was born in 1940. You're not going to do that. You're going to tell a story about Cher that's relevant, or you're going to tell a story about yourself involving
well, that's where the
relevant.
takeaway comes in. That's where the takeaway comes in, and that's why we start with the takeaway. And the whole game, and this will make you hopefully lots and lots of money writing emails, is finding that sticky topic and the connection that you make to the takeaway, and finding that bridge, and the sophistication and nuance and power of that bridge is the whole game.
So how do I use AI to do exactly what you just said? Do I feed it the takeaway? Do I feed it the bridge? What do I do?
So what I've done is actually feed it my entire Inbox Love methodology, and I have an Inbox Loverator that now will generate emails. They're 70%, but at least they'll be able to, I usually have it recognize what's wrong or where the gaps are with someone else's email and then make suggestions before I let it draft. That's another more sophisticated way to use AI. So you want to know what it's thinking before it actually rewrites for you, and then it'll tell you what it does. So you can actually sort of see what it's doing and what it's learning. But how do you do that? You feed it examples of, and if you haven't done this already, I know a lot of people have already trained AI on their voice, and that's great. You want to make sure that you have trained it on your voice first.
Yep. And otherwise, everything's going to become a groundbreaking journey, and we don't want that, y'all.
It's not that. It's this. It's not about.
Right. And if I see the word fluff one more time, I'm going to scream.
Anyway, or maybe it's a little off. I've seen a lot of that lately. Anyway, just know that every LLM has its tells, and smart people see when your chatty is showing. So be careful of that. Anyway, we want to do a Claude project, set up a Claude project, give it instructions that you are going to, your job is to create really high converting emails in your voice with strong takeaways. Each email follows a specific format. It has a hook, it has a story, it has a takeaway. It has a really strong call to action. So you give it the format first, And then you can open new chats for each email. And basically you want to do it in stages. Ask it for an outline first of the sequence that you want. Ask it give it the takeaway that you want. And that takeaway should come from your bridge of beliefs, which is something that I do with my clients we can talk about later. Gotta leave some mystery, right?
That's the takeaway. The takeaway is there's something called a bridge of beliefs.
And that is really your entire content roadmap once you have it done well. So you pick a belief that you're shifting, the takeaway that you want to have that leads to the action, and you could even use a random word generator. Find something around you, find a story, have a story bank. I mean, the process with AI is the same process from before AI, just faster and with the benefit of the knowledge that it has to pull stories and examples that are outside of your brain.
But at the end of the day, that editor is you.
And sometimes I know, some people use it to draft and then edit that draft to make it their own. I, for functional fixedness reasons, almost prefer to write the draft myself because I'll get something that's much closer to what I actually wanted to say than if I try to go back and edit.
I freaking love it. All right, so if you are inspired to get out there and make sure that, yes, even using the robot, but especially using some fabulous constraints, you are creating more resonant, more magnetic copy. Danny is back 2 other times during Feral. Once, we are going to talk about how romance tropes make you a better copywriter. And then after that, rumor has it, we're giving away my trade paperbacks because we got to get them out of this house. I have so many books and kilts, y'all. And then again, on implementation day, Danny's going to be doing actual copy audits. So whether you bring stuff that the robot came out for you or you came out with or both.
I don't judge.
She's not going to judge, but she is going to make it better. So get on there to implementation day. Danny, I hate the constraint of a half hour. I got to let you go. But I love, love, love the brilliance that you brought to this 30 minutes. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
All right, y'all. We'll see you next time. Raw, real, and just a little dangerous. This is Feral.